Hello everybody, I am Joe the Teenage Astronaut. This is a launch stream. I'm excited for this. So this is... Yeah, that's what I thought you muted here. You'll probably hear a little bit of echo.
The moon, Mars, and beyond.
I am still working on a bunch of stuff
Starship is a fully reusable
right now.
transportation system designed to carry both crew
And
cargo to Earth orbit, the moon, Mars, and beyond. You can see it there in your photo. That was the first time that we stacked the Starship booster with the Starship flight vehicle. And
so this is the official SpaceX stream. This is not me. I'm not here.
Describe scale. You know, we were just talking about, you know,
so
everything seems so small. I mean, just multiply that feeling times 100 when you envision Starship. The first time I saw it with my own eyes, I wept with joy. It's just an incredible monster of a vehicle, and there's a view of that stacking next to
Streamlabs. What are we doing?
Essentially a fixed service structure there. And yeah, so it's super exciting to follow along with all the advancements. Everybody knows that it changes not on a monthly, not on a weekly, but a daily basis there in Starbase, Texas.
And what I love that Starship is doing is they're very manufacturing and production focused, and that is very key for us to continue to fly and reuse these vehicles and learn as much as possible. But we also need to build them in the first place. And you know, the faster that we can build, the more that we can learn about designing it for manufacturability, designing it for that reusability. And again, we've done so much of that with Falcon and Dragon, and now taking that to Starship and using all that knowledge and
there you go, fixed it.
Just constantly improving our manufacturing and production.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
what did the
And
echo?
there's the innovation there, regardless of success or failure.
I am Joe the Teenage Astronaut. Welcome to my stream. We are going to have a little bit of commentary until about 6:55. Then we are going to switch to having just the SpaceX commentary, because I'm going to be busy with other things involving my life.
The crew is not going to the International Space Station. They will be lifting off from Pad 39A, spending about 3 days in orbit at a flight apogee of 25 kilometers. Here is an animation of where
because I still want to hear it, but
higher than the International Space Station, higher than
no, I can hear it. Haha.
telescope.
So, welcome to Space Super Teenage Astronaut. This is not Space Super Teenage. I mean, it's kind of a Space Super Teenage Astronaut. This is difficult. Well, introduction. I'm a Teenage Astronaut. This is my first ever launch stream. I've never done one of these before. On the screen now, you'll see the crew on the right. It's the crew of Version 4. Chris Zimboski, Dr. Simon Proctor, Jared Isaacman, and Haley. I'm not even going to try to say her last name. I'm just not. On Crew Dragon Resilience, and they're currently on top of a SpaceX Falcon 9, which does remind me, actually, I don't want you right now. I don't want that right now. So, this is them, though. So yes. So, so they are going to be attempting to recover the booster today. The recovery crew is just read the instructions down off of Florida. Go navigate, or let's go quest, I think. It's off in the Gulf of Mexico in the event of an abort scenario. And then also, lastly, is Doug, one of the newer fleet, one of the newer parts of the fleet. That is pretty much just being a thing, like doing everything. It handles it all. So, I'm definitely excited for this one, for multiple reasons. A, it's an all-civilian launch, and also I'm streaming it. If you've watched the episode that came out today of SBTA, that was supposed to come out weeks ago, but didn't, because, god darn it, YouTube, why do you have to betray me like that? I intended to stream the Firefly launch, but I ended up going on vacation doing it, and I wasn't able to stream it. Which reminds me, I am in a new office space. The last episode of SSBTA was recorded upstairs in my living room. I'm here in the HAS, the Hubble Aerospace Study, the Hubble Aerospace Study, Hubble Aerospace Space Study. I'm gonna fix that. The Hubble Aeronautics Space Study, that's what it was. And it's a very interesting thing. This is like one of the only times you're gonna be able to see this all of this right here. As when the next time I will have a recording going here, it's a green screen recording. It'll make my life way easier. I have a thing here that has a bunch of souvenirs and stuff on it. I plan on doing some Space Turbo Teenage Astronaut episodes differently than I do. It's just sitting in my chair like I normally. Someone have a camera there recording me over here, so it looks nicer. But also though, this means I can do stuff whenever I want to do it. Nobody is stopping me. That's a big thing. At 6:55, my commentary gets paused, and I will practically be restreaming the SpaceX stream during that time. But, wow, that's really not helpful, guys. I will return right before the launch. Like, right before the launch kind of thing. Like, 8 o'clock. So that'll be interesting. By the way, for the streaming, I'm using the same thing I use to actually record the episodes of SSBTA. I am using Streamlabs OBS. Very useful. You can record things and stream things. I might in the future try to stream this on my Twitch too, which is I Am Flipple. Look at that, that's Jared. Jared, in this picture, Jared, Dr. Cyan, Proctor, and Chris Zaborski. So the thing that's about this, like, this is the same, like, the last time this Crew Dragon flew, it was full NASA astronauts on the Crew 1 mission, was it? Was it the Crew 1 or was it Crew 2 that Resilience went on? Crew 1 was Resilience, because Crew 2 was Endeavor. So yeah, this was, yeah, with Crew 1, that's a long time ago. Yeah. So, they were just saying they have 5 opportunities for launch aboard in the 5-out window. So yeah, so they're currently set for T01 as they're just talking about it. They're currently set for T01, which is the very beginning of the window at 8:02. You can actually see Jared, that little tablet, is set to T01. In the event of them having to push back to one of the later T0s, either T02, 3, or 4, or T02 or 3, I think he was saying, they'll have to switch those tablets to that mode. I'm pretty sure to do that. They might, and I wonder to do that if they can do it from the control room in Hawthorne. Is it in Hawthorne? I honestly, even though I've been a space node for almost a year now, I still cannot tell if it's in Hawthorne or if it's in Cape Canaveral, because there was both. There was the SpaceX control room in Cape Canaveral, Florida, but also the SpaceX control room in Hawthorne, California. I think they both do it. I think that's what it is. I think they both do it, which would make a lot of sense. Also, that thing at the very beginning you saw, let's say, communications will start shortly, was just kind of me getting the stream set up and whatnot. In the future, as I do this more and more, my way my streams look will change a lot, probably. But yeah, so yeah, by the way, just to keep in mind, even though a lot of you should know, this is not going to the ISS. This is the first Crew Dragon mission since the first ever launch of a Falcon 9 not going to the ISS. Also, another thing that's I think I said in the description of the stream. This is also the first. It's also going to be the highest mission, like orbit-wise, since the Hubble Servicing Missions, which were in the 1990s and early 2000s. But yeah, I do not know what to talk about, but like that's gonna change. It's like, come on, this is my first time ever doing this. That is gonna happen. That also reminds me, I'm currently in the works of another episode of SBTA. It will be coming out next week on Saturday, as like this upcoming Saturday. I'm not gonna say anything about it whatsoever, because it's gonna have stuff to do with this mission. I've been watching the Inspiration 4 documentary, and it's fun. It's a fun documentary, and like they talk about how so much could go wrong and all this. And, like it's realizing like we don't know what happened yet, cause it hasn't happened. like with the Challenger documentary, they talk about everything. Like it exploded. You know that, but you don't know what happened this. I mean, just saying, Cyan Proctor, Dr. Cyan Proctor, Cyan, I'm gonna call her Cyan from now on, by the way. So she will be the first she'll be the first African American, pilot ever. Like, ever. And there's also just a bunch of other special stuff going on. But yeah, and Haley is an ex-cancer patient. Like she had cancer when she was a kid, and like a big thing of like, how is her leg gonna do? Like there was a bunch of stuff going on because like generally, like to go to space you need to be like the healthiest of the healthy kind of thing. Like you need to be really good. You can't have anything wrong with you. Like some of the early astronauts, like they were on the edge of getting grounded because they had an ear infection. Like, or it had an ear infection previously in the adult life. So it's like, I don't know, that tablet is practically a cell phone on the leg. By the way, Cyan Proctor, she actually was close to becoming an astronaut, like an actual astronaut, and in the end, she didn't get selected, like the very last step kind of thing. But she gets to go to space anyways. It's gonna be cool. Very cool. But yes, actually, by the way, I have two versions. I have two of these open. I have this one, the one you're watching, and I also have the NSF one open. That's like what I'm actually watching, really. Because also somehow, I don't know how, the NSF stream is like 20 seconds faster than the actual SpaceX stream is. Which, by the way, makes no sense. Like, seriously. How is the NSF stream faster than the SpaceX stream? Don't know how, just know it is. 15 more minutes of this commentary, and it's going away. Pussy. When I do that, I'm also going to deactivate my webcam. And pretty much it will look like this. This is how it will look. There you go. But I'm still here. Visual? Yeah. So there apparently is a little bit of a delay, like a 10-second delay between YouTube and me. But, hey, I'm moving. No problem though. John spoke was talking about how like you'll never get to space by driving your car vertically, doing the speed limit. I definitely recommend actually having multiple ones of these open, because every single one you'll see something different, almost. If they're all doing commentary, it'll be something different. For instance, sometimes after space flight, we'll generally like switch between the two. When you see here, push it with online now, just 20 seconds earlier somehow. And the actual, the camera they have set up recording the event. But yeah, so a little bit about me, if you're just watching, picking it up now. Will be if you're watching afterwards with details. I am the Teenage Astronaut. I have been a total space nerd since December 2020. Like a complete space nerd. I've been a somewhat space nerd since like I was like 8. Yeah. Like I've been off and on really into space since I was 8. But I've been like doing stuff like this. Doing, space stuff by Teenage Astronaut since I was a lot younger than this. Oh. That's cute. Jared Isaac Mintz has a little like pendant thing from his family. What's Chris talking about? I'm going to turn the audio on and be silent here for a little bit.
Sure. So, what I have here are 2 pins. They're both orders of the Eastern Star. I don't know if you can take a look at that and see those, but
No, we
that's
can't.
that one, and then there's a smaller one here. And, these belong not to her, but to her great-grandmother. The reason it's important to me is not only is it talking about some history and some family connections. My grandfather on my mom's side was a Mason, and my grandmother was also an order member of the Eastern Star, and they were 2 of the coolest people I think I knew. My grandfather had a way of really making anyone feel at ease and welcoming anyone he saw, regardless of their background or where they were from or what they thought, and knowing that that being able to take up little pins like this that represent something that meant a lot to him and to other folks that in my family, I think that means a lot.
That's cool.
I'm very happy to report that I have turned in all of my payload. I've been thinking about what I wanted to bring to space
This is my favorite one
since
of them.
January,
And
I finally turned everything in. And one thing that I'm really excited about that I'm bringing to space is this old picture of me. This is when I was 10 years old and going through bone cancer treatment. And so when I'm in space, I'm going to pull this photo out, and now getting to be in space, my hair's going to float everywhere, but yet hold this old picture of me and show all my patients, all these kids going through cancer treatment around the world, that there's a future, that it gets better, and I'm excited to be part of it.
Because like she is an actual doctor and whatnot at the same place she went through cancer
Doing
treatment.
really well. One of the other big things we've been working on is our packing for space list, which, I mean, how often do you get to say that you get to pack for space? And thinking about items that are important to us, that have meaning in some way, that we really want to bring with us. And so I have an item here. It's around my neck that I will take off, and this is a ring. and it's my dad's ring. And it's really cool because it's a Thunderbird, and my dad used to wear this all the time. And he passed away when I was 19, so I don't know the origin story of this, but it's a unique design, and it's pressed into the ring, and my dad absolutely loved it, and like I said, wore it all the time. And unfortunately, both my parents have passed away, so my mom, I can't even ask her. Like,
I bet
what's
she
the
have
story
2
behind
Apple
this ring?
Watches.
But I think my dad.
I didn't know she has 2 Apple Watches. I bet one of them is personal and one of them is a medical thing from
For a
SpaceX.
very long time. And so I'm going to bring that to space to represent my dad. I have my mom's ring here to represent her. And so I've got both my parents. And then something kind of unique and special that they got for me when I was born is this commemorative coin from the island of Guam. So it says Guam, USA, and it says where America's day begins. And so I've had this coin, and has 1970 on it because that's the year I was born. And so I feel like this is the first gift my parents ever got for me, was this coin when I was born, and I've had it now for 51 years. And so I'm bringing that to space with me. So I have my coin, and then I have my 2 rings from my parents, and I'm excited to bring them along for this incredible, amazing journey experience. And thank you for everything that you've done to help me get there.
Love seeing how they've all selected things to take with them. You know, in space, weight is a thing, so while they probably want to take as much as they
But yeah, I bet the reason they have the 2 Apple Watches are because of medical stuff. I think it's a big thing, like a big thing they're doing is medical experiments. Because, Chris is doing stuff involving blood glucose levels in diabetics, and Haley's knee, pretty much, and whatnot, and that pretty much. Which one? I'm pretty sure Haley's actually, she might be the youngest astronaut there is. I don't think so. No, I don't think she is. I know Cyan isn't the oldest, because Wally Funk. And I love Wally Funk's name. I love it. And that's what it looked like at the Hawthorne facility. SpaceX, that cargo dragon behind them is like an actual cargo dragon, by the way. It's really cool. T-minus an hour, 14 minutes. So, we are approaching the launch. But, here in a couple of minutes, my commentary is going to go silent until 8 o'clock. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a thing on the screen that says, it says no commentary till 8. And I'm going to get that set up right now. But there's going to be a ukulele in space. So this is the thing that's going to be on the screen when I'm gone. It's going to be right here. And goodbye. Boop. So that'll pop up in like 4 minutes, about, yeah, a couple of minutes. And then when it goes away, it means I am about to speak in commentary again. And I will do that as early as I can, because I don't want to miss the launch, A, and B, I want to do a little bit of commentary before the launch, so I want to do a T-5 countdown. Come on, I have to. I do it literally every single launch I watch. I do T-5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Especially on the Minotaur launch, which, by the way, the Minotaur 1 launch on June 15th, 2021, 9:35 a.m. I remember that date for a long time. That is the first actual rocket launch I watched in person, like, went to and watched, because I was at Wallops, and I live close to Wallops. Like, I live in Northern Virginia, but I don't live on the eastern shore of Northern Virginia, so it's, like, close to the weird things. It's, like, 4 hours away, but it's close. Like, as the crow flies, it's pretty close, but as the highway, as the highway drives, it's 4 hours away. I love the laptops, the little X on them. I wonder what the history is behind that. We're talking about the donations again, because like a big thing about this is the St. Jude donations. Another little image of the Crew Dragon crew. T-minus an hour and 11 minutes. T-minus 1.5 minutes until I go silent delete. I'm gonna go silent for like an hour. That'll be interesting. Launch is hard, so yeah. No, that's definitely right, John. John was just talking about how... John and Sparkle, by the way, you see what I'm talking about. We're just talking about how, you know, space is hard, rockets are hard, it's all hard. And by the way, this is obviously the L609A. If you don't know, this is where the Saturn V's launched, Space Shuttle's launched, Falcon Heavy launched, the first Falcon 9's launched, the current Falcon 9's launched. A lot is launched from here. It's old. That tower was from the Space Shuttle days. It's actually the only part of the Space Shuttle equipment that is still there. Because you know that you don't have that kind of like the massive thing that wraps around it. They removed that and replaced it with a tiny little arm there. It's kind of hilarious. I find it hilarious because like this massive thing used for the Space Shuttle, tiny little thing now. That and the strong back though, I suppose. But this is where I go silent for commentary. When I come back, it will be not long to launch. So I will see you then.
Efficient as the structure, and in the case of the Falcon 9, we tried to be as mass efficient as we could so that we carry mostly propellant with just a thin skin of tank around it to hold it. So the more propellant you've got, and the less tank and the less weight of the engines, the more efficient you're going to be, and that way you can carry more into space. And that eventually is where we're going, put humanity out into space.
Yeah, and so we talked a little bit about the time of launch, and today is a little bit different because we have up to 4 opportunities to launch our inspiration for crew members. But if we're doing things like trying to rendezvous with the International Space Station, we have to target a very, very specific window. And so depending on the profile of the launch, how high we're sending it, which type of orbit we're sending it, liftoff time does play a factor into that.
Yeah, one of the important things on, we talked about earlier is we don't have a 1 second window today. We've got a 5.2 hour window. It's a 1 second window when we're going to the space station because we have to synchronize the launch with when the space station's orbital plane is passing over Florida. It's not exactly overhead. We have to lead it a little bit. But if you think about it, in Florida, we're rotating at about almost 1,500 kilometers an hour going eastward. Doesn't feel like that, but put your seatbelts on. The Earth is rotating. That's 25 kilometers every minute. So if you waited about like a 15-minute launch window, all of a sudden the space station's 375 kilometers east of where you are on the ground. and it takes a tremendous amount of propellant to make up that kind of air. So that's one of the challenges why orbital dynamics is important. You've got to know when you're going to launch, where you headed. A lot of people care where the sun is when you get into orbit. If you have got solar rays, then you need power right away on a satellite. So orbital dynamics, another great thing to study in school, because if you don't know where you're going to go and how to get there, you won't get there.
Yeah, John, you've been talking a lot about all the things that go into, designing and building a rocket that can do all the things that we've been doing, flying to orbit, taking payloads to orbit, taking humans to orbit. We've got a lot of history and a lot of things that we've learned. We didn't do this by ourselves. We worked very closely with NASA, and we've learned so much from them. We wouldn't be here today without the support of NASA and the knowledge that they have. Can you talk a little bit about things like the particular things that NASA has brought to the team?
Yeah, that NASA partnership goes way back. I joined SpaceX 2006, right when we were competing for what was called the COTS Space Act Agreement, the Commercial Orbital Transportation Service, where NASA said, hey, we can't pay companies to develop systems from scratch, but we can give you essentially some seed money. So they had a competition. SpaceX was one of the winners. Elon put a lot of his money in. But working with NASA on the early Falcon 9 and the Dragon, we learned things like, what are some of the best practices? A lot of our engineers would pull off of the NASA tech library, how do you do hold down systems or quick disconnect systems? What's worked in the past? So we essentially got to leverage that, all those lessons learned from decades by NASA. And then we learned things like, okay, we're gonna send cargo to the space station. What does it mean to physically touch the space station? What are the requirements? Then how do you verify them to NASA? It's like somebody wants to bring a big truck into your garage and you know that your garage door is only so high. You're not just gonna let them drive in, you're gonna go measure that before it happens.
Yeah.
So we went from that, we took astronauts to the space station. Each step of the way, NASA's been helping us understand what it means to get into space, what are some of those requirements that we've leveraged to do human spaceflight that you see here today.
Yeah, it is super exciting. Again, we've been learning a lot from NASA throughout the years. Kate has a very special guest interview. Kate, I'll throw it to you.
Thanks, Andy. Joining us now from Cape Canaveral is none other than Charlie Bolden, former NASA astronaut and administrator. Welcome.
Kate, it's great to be with you, and I was enjoying listening to the story, and I think you all are being somewhat modest. We learned quite a bit from SpaceX as we began to partner also.
Thank you so much for that. Now, Charlie, like I mentioned, you were a NASA astronaut that then became the NASA administrator, and that happened at a pivotal time both in the history of NASA and commercial space. Were either one of those roles something that you dreamed of doing as a kid?
No, as a matter of fact, I tell kids all the time, I never dreamed of being an astronaut because I grew up in the segregated South, and that was just not, that was not something that was going to happen. I had no desire to fly airplanes. I thought flying was inherently dangerous, and but at the age of 12 in 7th grade, I fell in love with a place called the United States Naval Academy, watching a program on television called Men of Annapolis. And I struggled to get there, and when I finally got there, that led to my going into the Marine Corps, which led to my going to flight school, which led to my going to test pilot school, which led to my meeting the late, great Dr. Ron McNair, who was in the first group of space shuttle astronauts selected. And he's the guy that embarrassed me into applying for the space program. So I kind of fell into it. I don't recommend that kids follow my example, though.
Well, it sounds like you've had quite the journey throughout your career. And speaking of journeys, we talked a little bit earlier about the history of Pad 39A, which we see over your shoulder there in the distance. How does space travel look different from the days when you were an astronaut compared to the last 10 years or so?
You know, Kate, I think it's dramatically different. I mean, the techniques, the orbital mechanics, everything, all the laws and everything are the same, but it's the face of space flight today that is dramatically different. I'm so excited to be here this evening for this launch because You know, having I was telling somebody earlier today, just the thought of having an all commercial crew, a crew of non-professional astronauts lift off from the same launch pad where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin left before they stepped on the moon, is just flabbergasting. It's sort of it's the complete cycle of a tale to get us from where it was nothing but government to where now we can actually have an all civilian, all commercial flight where NASA's really not involved at all, other than being the host here at the Kennedy Space Center.
And we're so thankful that you guys are able to host us. Now, if SpaceX were hosting you on today's mission, imagine if you were part of the Inspiration 4 crew, what 2 or 3 personal items would you want to take with you?
You know, I love listening to each of the crew members talk about what they took, and on each of my flights, my very first flight, as a matter of fact, since I didn't know whether there would be any more, I took a ring that had belonged to my mother. I actually wore a pearl cross that she had worn since she was a child because it meant a lot to her. And I took very personal items also. If I were to go today, I now have a 12-week-old grandson, so I would have to take something that belongs to him, young Walker Elias, and I have 3. I'm blessed with 3 beautiful granddaughters. So my guess would be that at least 4 of those items would be from the 4 grandkids today.
You mentioned your grandkids. How do you imagine that the future of spaceflight might look whenever they are adults and possibly growing up to become astronauts themselves?
Oh. You know, Kate, I am firmly convinced that by the time Walker, who's the baby now, the 12-week-old, by the time he gets ready to go to space, we're going to be talking about, I mean, going to the moon will be, routine is not a word I like to use, so let's not do that, but it will be a place where we go with some frequency, and we'll be venturing off to Mars also. So I think there's a very good chance that probably Walker and maybe my baby granddaughter Talia will have an opportunity to be among the first people to actually set foot on Mars. So I'm very hopeful that they will end up doing that. And if they decide that they don't want to go to space, they don't want to fly, we're big proponents of, you know, Sion is actually really pushing the arts. I really agree with what she says. Arts and design are key aspects of what's required for us to even get people to space. And they are 2 areas that we should not overlook as we talk about STEM education. But the arts and design are what gives us, as an example, the wonderful spacesuits that the crew is wearing today. Some designer actually sat down and thought about that. You know, that's not aerodynamic. That's actually a little arts and design there. So I think the world is the oyster for my grandchildren, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You add the A into STEM and you get STEAM, right? Now, years ago at
exactly right.
Years ago at a joint SpaceX NASA launch, you gave observers some really great advice, and that was to put their phones down and watch the launch with their own eyes and just really enjoy the experience. Now, with our Inspiration 4 crew sitting in their seats, what advice would you give to those civilian astronauts as they are preparing to go to space for the first time?
You know, believe it or not, I sent Jared a text a few days ago, and then I had an opportunity to say hello to them before they walked out today. And my advice to them was relax, enjoy it, suck it up, really spend time in the window to look at the incredible beauty of our planet from a perspective that not very many humans will have had. You know, we've flown 500 and some odd humans to space, but as you all keep pointing out, when I flew my Hubble Space Telescope mission, we were at 600 kilometers, and that was a view that only people who had gone to the moon had before, and we've not had any views like that since because we've just not gone that high. They are going to be in a unique position looking at this planet from almost 600 kilometers, and it's breathtakingly different from looking on board the International Space Station. That's awesome. But it's amazing how much just the additional 100 or so kilometers adds to your perspective. You don't see the whole planet, but they're going to see a lot more of it than people see from the International Space Station. And I just hope they'll take an opportunity to suck it up and enjoy it and visualize it, so they can tell stories about it to their children and grandchildren and to every kid they meet when they come back. Because that's actually the most important role for an astronaut, is to become storytellers and help people understand why it's important to take care of our planet and why we're running out of time, and we've got to be we've got to be better stewards of the planet. So I'm excited for them to have this opportunity.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As the mission name indicates, one of the primary functions of this mission is to inspire others. So you hit the nail on the head there for sure.
Exactly.
Charlie Bolden, former NASA administrator and NASA astronaut, thank you so much for joining us today. Back over to Jesse as we continue to tick down to T0.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Charlie Bolden. That was an incredible interview, and great to hear from him, partners at NASA. It's just so great. You know, teamwork really makes the dream work. So if you're just now joining us, you picked a great time, as we are approximately T-minus 56 minutes and counting until launch. Welcome to the coverage for the mission known as Inspiration 4, the first all-civilian mission to space. Liftoff time is still holding for 8:02 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're tracking no issues with Falcon 9 or Dragon. The range is green, the weather is cooperating. Over the last 3 hours, Jared Isaacman, Dr. Cyan Proctor, Haley Arsenault, and Chris Zimbrowski donned their SpaceX spacesuits in our brand new SpaceX suit-up room, and were then transported to the pad where our crew entered the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft, which you've been seeing live on your screen the past few hours.
Yeah, but before we go any further, we have to get reacquainted with our crew. Let's take a moment and learn a little bit more about Jared. He is a 38-year-old Inspiration 4 commander. He is the founder and chief executive officer of Shift 4 Payments, a father and husband, and has set multiple world records as a pilot. When he was younger, Jared flew in over 100 air shows and dedicated every performance flight to great causes, and today is no different. This mission is named Inspiration 4 in recognition of the 4-person crew's mission to inspire support for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Jared has donated $100 million himself and is hoping to raise another $100 million to support the nonprofit organization. This $200 million goal for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital would not be possible without Jared's dedication to a greater cause. Here's more about the New Jersey native and self-described aviation and aerospace fan.
I grew up in New Jersey, and when I was a kid, I wanted to grow up and be a doctor. My older brother's a doctor. I watched like the show ER as a kid, and I thought that's pretty cool. I think, you know, saving lives is a pretty important thing. But, you know, life took me in a different direction. My interest in like aviation and aerospace goes back like since I was a kid. I mean, you know, the first like computer I built, I was playing like Falcon 2.0, and then, you know, upgraded to play Falcon 3.0. I went to like Aviation Challenge, which is part of Space Camp as a kid. I was a, you know, observer of SpaceX from like, you know, the outside looking in like a lot of people. And then, you know, my opportunity to kind of see what the inside was like began in October of 2020 when the idea of Inspiration 4 started to come about. A big part of what we're trying to achieve with Inspiration 4 is to send, you know, an inspiring message really to the world about what is certainly possible up there in space, but also what we can accomplish here on Earth as well, which is why, you know, this massive fundraising effort for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is such a big part of our mission. To me, having some balance where you're trying to tackle a problem of today so you can earn the right to keep making progress tomorrow is just a philosophy I've tried to live by for some time. The advice I would give my younger self, you can aim high, you can dream big, and even things that people would say is next to impossible, you can accomplish it. I totally believe like we all have, you know, that fundamental obligation to leave the world a better place than we found it. I'm Jared Isaacman, and I'm the commander of Inspiration 4.
For this first all-civilian mission to orbit, Jared wanted his crewmates to represent the best of humanity, Pillars he's identified as leadership, hope, generosity, and prosperity. As commander of the mission, Jared holds the seat of leadership. For the seat of hope, Jared went to St. Jude and was introduced to Haley Arsenault.
Haley is from Memphis, Tennessee, and serves as the medical officer of the Inspiration 4 mission, overseeing medical care and experiments. When she was 10, she was diagnosed with bone cancer. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital helps her with groundbreaking treatment, including chemotherapy and limb-sparing surgery that resulted in replacing her femur bone with a prosthetic. Now she is currently a physician's assistant at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, the same place that saved her life so many years ago. At 29 years old, she represents a couple of firsts for this mission that's already the first civilian mission to go into space. Haley will be the youngest American to go into space and the first person to go into space with a prosthetic body part. Here's more on Haley, who occupies the seat of hope on the Inspiration 4 mission.
I'm so excited to be going to space, and I'm just a regular person. I am so lucky that I got a phone call asking if I wanted to go to space. I'm from Louisiana. I was a super active, super outgoing kid, involved in everything, and I actually had just gotten my black belt in Taekwondo a couple days before I was diagnosed with cancer. I definitely am excited to represent those that aren't physically perfect. I want to bring this experience back and share with everyone I encounter, and just what this represents for the new age in space travel and who can be an astronaut. I've thought a lot about launch day. I've even had some dreams about launch day, and I still don't know what will be going through my mind. I know I'm going to be incredibly excited. And of course, I have the window seat. Looking out the window and seeing Earth from space is going to be so incredible. Can't even put into words. What I'm absolutely most excited about is we're gonna call the St. Jude patients from space. And I'll get to video call these kids that I've gotten to treat, and these kids going through cancer treatment and getting to show them what life after cancer can look like. It's been incredible for me to watch how much this mission has already touched the kids at St. Jude and how much hope it's given them. I love this one little girl I talked to recently. She said, I can't wait to be an astronaut. Like, there was no if in there. She just couldn't wait for it to happen. I think that's what hope is. I am Haley Arsenault, Medical Officer of Inspiration 4.
As part of the effort to raise money for St. Jude, Jared decided to give away one seat to a person at random who donated to St. Jude's cause. That seat, the seat of generosity, went to Christopher Sombrosky. Christopher Sombrosky of Seattle, Washington is the mission specialist of today's flight, helping to manage payloads, science experiments, and communications to mission control. He is a 42-year-old mechanical and diagnostics lead at Lockheed Martin and a United States Air Force veteran. As an amateur astronomer, he grew up with a natural curiosity about outer space and even worked as a U.S. space camp counselor. He was awarded the seat of generosity after contributing to a special fundraising campaign for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Let's meet Chris, the inspiration for...
At 56.80, the propellant load go, no-go pole is now open.
Let's meet Chris, the Inspiration 4 mission specialist.
When I found out I was going to space, I was dumbfounded. I think I was just struck dumb for days. The seed was planted for me to fall in love with space when I was little and started launching little rockets in my front yard with my dad, the first of which is still probably stuck in a Florida pine tree somewhere. But when I first saw a space shuttle launch in person from the causeway, 6 to 8 miles away, you could still feel that rumble pounding through your chest. That kind of just shifted my foundation a little bit, and I knew from there on out I had to be somehow a part of space, whether it was helping support a mission or lobbying for folks to be able to go into space. That's where I wanted to be. Of course, I'm going to be looking down at my home in Western Washington. I'm also looking to see what I don't see, and that's going to be lines on a map or those walls that seem to separate all of us ideologically or politically or even geographically or physically. Those don't exist when you get far enough out, and I'm really hoping to bring back that sense of what it means to only have that one small line that matters to all of us, and that's the atmosphere that keeps us separated from, you know, the vacuum of space. As we get to launch day, I am gonna have the biggest smile going ear to ear. Just, it's gonna be, yeah, I'm gonna be shaking with excitement. No fears or jitters at all about what's going to happen, but man, that's gonna be a heck of a show. I'm Chris Sembrowski, Mission Specialist of Inspiration 4.
Jared reserved the 4th seat for someone who exemplified the entrepreneurial spirit. This 4th seat, representing prosperity, was awarded to Dr. Cyan Proctor. She is from Tempe, Arizona, and serves as the pilot for today's mission. She's 51 years old, is an entrepreneur, an educator, poet, artist, and active voice in the space exploration community. She's passionate about encouraging others to use their unique space to inspire those within their reach and beyond as part of her Space to Inspire motto. Dr. Cyan was awarded the Seat of Prosperity after being selected as the top entrant of an independently judged online business competition conducted by the Shift4Shop e-commerce platform. Here's more about Dr. Proctor and her love of exploring planet Earth.
The day of launch, I'm going to be thinking about how my entire life has led up to this moment. I was born on the island of Guam, and the reason why I was born there is that my dad worked for the NASA tracking station. And so I feel like space has always been a part of me. When I got that call, that Zoom, and Jared was on there, and he said that, you know, they picked me for the prosperity seat, that I was going to go to space with him and be part of the Inspiration 4. It really was like getting the golden ticket for Willy Wonka. Everything in my life finally came into focus, and I realized that it was all about this moment in time. I won the prosperity seat for Inspiration 4, and I did that not as a geoscientist or an explorer or an analog astronaut, which are all on my resume. I actually won this as a poet and an artist. We are striving for that Star Trek generation, that idea of a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space, or a Jedi space. I'm gonna be the first Black female pilot of a spacecraft ever. And to me, that just blows me away. And I wanna encourage the next generation to dream that this is possible. And a Jedi space, that's what that's about. I'm Dr. Cyan Proctor, and I'm the mission pilot for Inspiration 4.
Coming up on T-minus 45 minutes, we're waiting for the launch director to give instructions to the team.
Complete, and the team is ready for crew access arm, propellant load, and launch. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD, and they'll approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort sequence. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. In the event of a fire alarm, key operators will remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated. In the event that personnel safety is threatened, evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit, which leads directly outside. Launch control, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
There you've heard the instructions and a great view from the camera on the fixed service structure looking down the crew arm. SpaceX team has been pulled. The 7 operators on Falcon 9 in firing room 4 at Kennedy Space Center. They've indicated they are go for propellant load of the Falcon 9 and launch. The crew is given a go. The Dragon team's given a go. We're moving into the next of the major steps, retracting the crew access arm. This will take a couple of minutes. We're going to follow that by arming the launch escape system, and then at T-minus 35 minutes, begin propellant load of the Falcon 9. And sharing in the background here at Hawthorne, keep watching the arm moving away as we get deeper into the countdown. Weather continues to be good for Falcon 9 launch. Range is ready to support. All systems remain green and go. continuing to move away. Once it's in position, we ought to hear the instructions to the crew to close and lock their visors, and then arm the escape system on the Dragon spacecraft.
The countdown clock is continuing to tick, and we are now at T-minus 42 minutes from launch. We're standing by the crew arm. The crew access arm has retracted, and that is one of the last major visual milestones that we'll see in preparation for liftoff, and it's slowly moving back here. Should conclude shortly. And shortly thereafter, once the crew arm has been retracted, we should hear the call out that the launch escape system is armed. And from there, we'll hear that Falcon 9 prop load has started.
We saw our Inspiration 4 crew members suit up about 3 hours ago in our brand new suit up room located in the Falcon support building.
Access arm retraction complete.
That is good news. The crew access arm has finished retracting away from the vehicle. So the team suited up
Dragon
at...
SpaceX, you are go for section 7 of 4.100. Close visors and arm the launch escape system.
And copy that, SpaceX. We're go for section 7 of 4.100. We're closing visors and arming LES.
Okay, the next major step, you see the view of the crew inside the Inspiration 4 capsule, closing their visors. Make sure they're locked and sealed. The next step will be arming the launch escape system. That's where the Super Draco thrusters are enabled. So if anything happens from here through the countdown or flight, Dragon has the ability to leave Falcon 9 and carry the crew into a safe recovery out in the ocean. We're waiting now for the call out. The launch escape system is armed.
Yeah, John, you mentioned the launch escape system, and
Launch escape system is verified armed.
And there's that call out, the launch.
Copy that, SpaceX. We're closing out 4.100.
Copy that, Dragon.
There's that call out. The launch escape system is now armed. And again, this is the first of its kind escape system to provide this escape capability all the way to orbit. You can hear the team here is getting really excited as we march towards T0.
So the launch escape system, let's talk a little bit more about that. It utilizes the Super Draco engines that are installed into the Dragon capsule. There are 8 of them. There are 8 Super Draco engines on the Dragon capsule, and they're aptly named Super Dracos. They differ from the regular Dracos just a little bit. The Draco engines that are on the Dragon that help in in-orbit maneuvers, those produce about 90 pounds of force in the vacuum space. A single Super Draco engine produces 15,000 pounds of force. And so altogether, it produces over 120,000 pounds of force. And that is what's needed in case of an emergency to accelerate the Dragon capsule and crew away from any type of emergency.
Exactly. And like you said, those Super Dracos are just super powered Draco engines. And the only time they are ever utilized is in that launch abort procedure. So we are not expecting to use them today, but we do take safety very seriously, and we take every measure possible to ensure that the crew has options and has an escape in the worst of scenarios. And like Jesse mentioned before, it's the first of its kind and provides an escape capability for the crew all the way to orbit.
Yes, so that launch escape system is currently armed. Once in orbit, we actually disarm that, and we'll be relying only on the Draco engines from there on out.
Yeah. Now, next up, we will be having prop load begin. And this is basically when when Falcon comes alive. We begin to load liquid oxygen and rocket-grade kerosene, also known as RP1, into both the first and second stages. Dragon is already fully loaded. The fuels for Dragon, the hypergulls, get fully loaded down the street from Pad 39A a week or two in advance to launch. So it's already locked and loaded. Up next is the prop load for Falcon 9.
One thing while we've got a moment, we were talking about Super Dracos and contingency aborts. You will hear call-outs probably during the ascent. Stage 1A, Stage 2A, Stage 1B.
Propellant tanks will be venting for propellant load.
That just means various points in time, if an escape was necessary, the Dragon flight computer is programmed to do different things. How long the engines will burn, how long it'll wait to coast to apogee, what it'll do to come back down when the parachutes are deployed. So when you hear those, it's usually the crew giving the call out and the ground echoing it. That just indicates we are moving farther and farther away from the launch pad. And so if a contingency arose, different sequences would be performed in the Dragon flight computer. Right now we're just 90 seconds away from the start of propellant loading. We're at T-minus 36 minutes, 26 seconds. Everything continues to look good for Crew Dragon's 4th launch with people. Today, the first all-civil mission to low Earth orbit. Now we should hear a call out right at T-minus 35 minutes when propellant load begins. Propellant loading will start on the first stage. Liquid oxygen and RP1 kerosene fuel. We'll also begin loading kerosene fuel on the second stage. And it'll take us a little bit deeper into the countdown before we put liquid oxygen onto the second stage. And everything wraps up inside the last 10 minutes with the very last propellant finishing up at just T-minus 2 minutes.
So there on your screen is the Falcon 9 rocket at Pad 39A, and at the very top is the Crew Dragon Capsule, where the Inspiration 4 crew awaits liftoff in just about 35 minutes. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the first all-civilian mission to orbit, aka these are non-professional astronauts. They're people like you and me that are they're going to be going up to 575 kilometers, and they're going to be orbiting Earth there at that altitude for 3 whole days. So you can hear the voices in the background here that are getting a little louder. The excitement in the building here at SpaceX headquarters is certainly growing.
Propellant load has started.
Especially with that call right there.
We're inside T-minus 35 minutes. We are right on time. Propellant load start call out has begun. The fill and drain valves for the first and second stage fuel tanks and the first stage liquid oxygen tank now coming open. Ground system pumps beginning to push the propellant into the Falcon 9. As we said, that'll continue all the way down to T-minus 2 minutes. We'll hear call outs and bring status as we go through the countdown. But currently, everything looking good at Pad 39A for the launch of the Inspiration 4 crew in just over 34 minutes.
So our crews, like Kate mentioned, are at the top of the vehicle, sitting inside of the Dragon capsule. Jared, Cyan, Haley, and Chris have been training for this journey pretty much ever since the announcement that they'd all been selected as crewmates for the Inspiration 4 mission in March. What's super cool is that they are going through the same exact Dragon training as our NASA astronauts. In order to get to visit low Earth orbit, our teams at SpaceX have spent hundreds of hours teaching the crew about orbital mechanics, how to live in space and microgravity, and even running simulations of what a full mission would look like while seated inside of Dragon.
Yeah, the Inspiration 4 crew has completed numerous simulations, including a 30-hour and 12-hour end-to-end simulation in our Dragon trainer. They trained not only at SpaceX, but they also did a few other trainings, centrifuge training. They flew some fighter jets together, did some aerobatics in these jets, some flips, and experienced some real G's before this mission today.
Yeah, they even got to pilot the jets themselves, which was super cool to see.
They also completed a zero-G flight, which you can see them there, almost like superheroes. They even climbed Mount Rainier in Washington, which looks like a very difficult hike.
Yes, I think during the docu-series, it was almost a whiteout condition, but they kept trekking along. It was almost 10 hours of hiking, 4,000 plus feet elevation, one of the serious hikes that you can do up in Washington.
Yeah, some great team building, and they even signed their Falcon 9 booster that is sitting on the pad, and that is them with their signatures on the vehicle that they will be lifting off in just over 30 minutes from now. This team has studied nearly 100 different training lessons covering all aspects of the mission. At the end of training each week, the crew recorded video diaries of their experiences. In their own words, here's the crew talking about their various training over the last 6 months.
Jared Isaacman here, Commander Inspiration 4, and we're like 4 months and a day away from our intended launch date.
This week was really intense because we had a lot of the systems. We got to go into the sim.
Going through some CRM training and looking at what the mission overview is going to look like.
We talked a lot about teamwork and the SpaceX culture.
Week 2 of training at SpaceX complete. This was a heavy week.
I just completed another week at SpaceX, and it was intense.
A lot of good building blocks. So you start in the beginning of the week with smaller things like losing comms to, okay, some circumstances are not so good, and then some get really bad where you have to, plan an emergency deorbit, which we initiate ourselves in that.
But man, challenging. I didn't realize how much upper body strength I need, so I need to hit the gym the next couple of months and build up some more muscles.
Today was my favorite day of training because today was the medical training day.
Learn some more about some of the medical experiments we're going to be working with and helping to advance what we know about humans in spaceflight.
We've all contributed all sorts of fluids now to the greater scientific cause.
But the best part is we all got in our spacesuits together.
We got to wear spacesuits, strap into the simulator, and feel like we were actually going to space.
Hello again, Chris here, and it's August 2nd, 2021, 44 days from our launch here in September. Everything keeps going to plan, and it's been an incredible week last week, working with SpaceX teams down at Kennedy Space Center, and then back here in Hawthorne this week for some sims.
This spacesuit that I got fitted for about 7 months ago, I actually get to see and try on and do a bunch of maneuvers in to make sure that it's comfortable and that I can move. And I am just so excited for this because, I mean, this is the spacesuit I'm going to wear leaving the planet.
I'm just so honored and thankful and grateful to be a part of this historic mission and a part of the SpaceX team.
Y'all are working so hard to get to Mars and beyond. We want to provide great data, and we're really excited to be part of this.
All right, well, thanks everybody for a fantastic time here in Hawthorne, and also down at Kennedy. We've been doing training down there as well, so really appreciate everything you guys been doing.
This is my final call here from SpaceX, so Rook signing off.
So incredible to get an inside look to their training. Only 553 humans have been to orbit, and most of those traveled as part of government or country-specific missions. As a result, the research conducted on those missions, particularly as it relates to humans in space, is often only accessible by the country or government that conducted the research. Think about the possibilities if the data from all those missions could be made available to the broader science community for research. Inspiration 4 is a step in that direction.
The crew of Inspiration 4 will conduct research in orbit that has the potential to improve human health here on Earth and for future space explorers. One of the cool things about this mission is that all biomedical data collected during the mission, things like heart rhythm and rate, blood oxygen saturation, among other things, will be accessible for research.
And to that end, SpaceX and the Inspiration 4 crew are partnering with TRISH, the Translational Research Institute for Space Health, to collect data and biological samples from the crew before, during, and after this historic spaceflight. Part of NASA's Human Research Program, TRISH is a virtual institute that finds and funds disruptive science and medical technology in order to reduce health and performance risks in space explorers.
Yeah, we saw Kate with Diana earlier putting on some really colorful sunglasses. They're not really sunglasses, but it was an experiment about how do we understand motion sickness and sort of the ups and downs in space. That is something I'm super excited about because I get a lot of motion sickness here, and so I'm hoping that it helps a lot of people.
Yeah, it was really cool to see firsthand some of the equipment that the crew has in their cargo hold. Like we've said before, this is a science mission in addition to it's a 3-day science mission basically. And one of the other things that Diana showed us was the ultrasound reader and how the intracranial fluid changes while you're in space. So lack of gravity essentially means that instead of the fluids in your body being concentrated towards your feet, they kind of they equalize towards your head, which can affect vision. And they are planning to use that ultrasound reader, which they just plug right into an iPad to do readings live inside Crew Dragon of their eyeballs while they're in space for 3 days.
That was so cool to see.
Yeah.
In addition to all the awesome science going up on today's mission, the Inspiration 4 team is also using this mission to bring awareness and help fundraise for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. The Children's Research Hospital opened in Memphis, Tennessee in 1962, and ever since has been committed to finding cures for kids with cancer and other life-threatening diseases, regardless of their socioeconomic status, race, belief, or ethnicity. St. Jude has invented treatments that help to push the overall childhood cancer survival rate from 20% to more than 80% in the United States. In developing countries, that number is unfortunately not that high, with fewer than 1 in 5 children with cancer surviving. St. Jude has a bold mission to change that.
The Inspiration 4 mission is part of an ambitious fundraising goal to give hope to all kids with cancer and other life-threatening diseases. The goal is to raise $200 million for St. Jude. Jared already committed $100 million. Jared already committed $100 million of his own money, and the team has raised about $30 million so far, but we still have a ways to go. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll notice that there's a donation button where you can make your own contribution. Any amount, big or small, makes a big difference, and it's super easy to do. So go ahead and click the donate button and give what you can to help save a child's life.
Beyond the good this mission will do for science and childhood cancer, this mission is also exciting because it's the debut of the new Dragon Cupola. I think we have some footages here of the cupola. It is going to be the largest continuous window in space ever by a factor of 2 and has over 2,000 square inches of viewing area.
Yeah, and there's a lot that went into the design for this. This is going to outer space, so it needs to be designed and tested for, all the loads that it will see while it's out in space. It's a great view to look out of, but it also needs to act as a fully functioning portion of the spacecraft.
Yeah, we were talking about reusability earlier, and this capsule is being used for the second time on this mission. It previously supported the Crew 1 mission in November of last year, but this cupola is brand new to this capsule, brand new to SpaceX. We're debuting it on this mission, and it is there's a view of it there in an anechoic chamber, and it's just incredible that we're basically gonna have 360 views of space from the forward hatch there of the Crew Dragon capsule. And this is an animation showing how its position in Crew Dragon is a little different. So Crew Dragon used to dock autonomously, or does dock autonomously to the International Space Station, that port there being underneath the nose cone, and that was removed, and for this mission is now replaced by the cupola, as we just saw. So super cool new piece of hardware that I'm so stoked to see launch here.
As we await T0 in about 23 minutes, the ground operations teams are doing a series of system checks to make sure both Dragon and Falcon 9 are ready for launch. Let's take a look at what the ascent portion of the mission will look like.
Once we hit T0, we will watch Falcon 9 and Dragon lift off from historic launch pad 39A and make their ascent. At about 50 seconds into flight, Falcon 9's engines will throttle down to help pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure on the rocket, or what we typically refer to as max Q. And it's worth noting that once we hit max Q, the vehicle will be going supersonic.
Once we are through the period of maximum dynamic pressure, we can throttle up our Merlin engines again. From here, we are about 2.5 minutes into flight, and we have a series of 3 events that happen in rapid succession. First is MECO, or main engine cutoff. This is where all 9 Merlin engines shut off in preparation for stage separation. Stage separation is where the first stage detaches from the second stage, with the first stage making its way back to Earth for landing as the second stage continues on its journey with the third event,
which is SCS-1, or Second Engine Start 1, and that is where the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage lights up and propels the second stage along with our Inspiration 4 crew to orbit. As Stage 2 heads towards its targeted drop-off orbit, Stage 1 will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first is the entry burn, which is where 3 of those 9 Merlin 1D engines will reignite and then shut down, and that'll help slow the stage down in preparation for entry back into the Earth's atmosphere.
While the first stage is heading back to Earth, the second stage will cut off its 1 Merlin engine that was ignited right after stage separation. Once this happens, we will wait for confirmation of a good orbital insertion. About 90 seconds after Dragon gets into orbit, Falcon 9 will land back on Earth. The landing burn, a single engine burn, will bring the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship about 9.5 minutes into the mission.
While Falcon 9 first stage is landing, Dragon is preparing to separate from the second stage. At about 3 minutes after the second stage gets into orbit, we should have a great view of Dragon with its 4-person crew drifting away from the second stage. Once Dragon is a short distance away, it will begin checking out its Draco maneuvering thrusters to make sure Dragon continues to increase separation distance from the second stage.
It's getting very exciting here at Hawthorne. The nose cone deploy sequence will initiate just before T plus 12 minutes and end around the T plus 15-minute mark. We do expect to see our first glimpse of the Dragon Cupola in outer space at this time.
We've just heard it. T-minus 20 minutes, 5 seconds counting. Stage 2 fuel load is complete. Now we're under 20 minutes to liftoff. It's been a wonderful day for today's Inspiration 4 mission, the first all-civilian mission to space. And if you joined us earlier in the broadcast, we had a pretty important question for the Inspiration 4 crew that remains unresolved. For those of you who missed that, here's your chance to weigh in.
If I had to choose between Star Wars, Star Trek, and then one of my other favorites is Stargate as G1, I would rather trek across the universe than fight my way.
I've heard, are you a Star Wars guy? Are you a Star Trek guy? Those used to be true. I really think I'm a Battlestar Galactica guy, to be honest.
There's no question it's Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars fan, for sure. I would say that if I had to guess, it's a split crew between Star Wars and Star Trek. I don't know if anyone else would have dropped Battlestar Galactica. I don't know on that one.
Can't beat Captain Adama.
I think Jared is Star Wars. Cyan is Star Wars. Chris is the wild card, but I think he's Star Wars.
Oh, Jared is definitely Star Wars. I think Chris is probably Star Trek, but I'm not 100% sure. And I would think that Haley, she's the youngest, so I think maybe Star Wars. I think Star Trek is too old for her.
Oh, I'm Star Trek, all the way. I wanted to be Bones. I kind of am, a medical officer, so.
I don't know if we're like completely unified around that. I mean, there is other, sci-fi, spacey stuff that comes before Star Trek.
Okay.
They don't know they're wrong. Like, that just, they'll learn that over time. Like.
I like Jared's last little comment there. They don't know they're wrong. When you're the commander of the mission, I wonder what your vote counts. Just under T-minus 18 minutes, everything continues to go well. We're getting ready to start LOX loading on the second stage. That'll bring us another step closer to launch at 8:02:56 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Falcon 9 is going to take Dragon into its orbit of about 190 by 575 kilometers. Shortly after that, we will raise Dragon's orbit to 575 kilometers in a circular orbit, higher than the space station, higher than the space telescope. For 3 days, a series of amazing views that Jared and the team should have looking through the windows and the cupola up there on the Inspiration 4 Dragon.
This crew will see about 15 orbits a day at this altitude. They'll get to experience 15 sunrises and 15 sunsets, which should be pretty incredible. And just as a comparison, John mentioned the International Space Station is going to be a little bit lower than where this crew is going to. Because the International Space Station is closer, it takes a little less time to orbit the Earth, so they see 16 orbits a day, relative to what this Inspiration 4 crew will see will be 15 orbits a day.
I do want to comment on what we're seeing on screen. This is the Falcon 9 rocket. That was the call for stage 2 liquid oxygen loading. You can start to see some white clouds around Falcon 9. That is normal and expected for us at this stage of the countdown. We are topping off that super chilled liquid oxygen, and when it reaches the warmer ambient air temperatures of Florida, it starts to condense and form those clouds that you see.
Now, if you notice that the second stage there is a slightly whiter shade than the first stage, that's because the first stage has been reused twice before. It previously supported the GPS 3.4 and GPS 3.5 missions back in 2020 and 2021 of this year. So that booster is making its third flight today. The Dragon Capsule is making its second flight. It previously flew on the NASA Crew 1 mission to the International Space Station. So that's why the second stage looks a little different than the first stage there, just underneath it.
Again, if you're just now joining us, you are tuned in to the first all-civilian mission to orbit, known as Inspiration 4. It's getting very exciting here. We're just a little over T-minus 15 minutes from T0.
And we started covering the action at T-minus 4 hours with the crew walking out of Hangar X. They made their way over to the Falcon support building where they got suited up. And then we saw them hop in the Teslas, ride up to the pad, go up the fixed service structure and walk down that lit crew access arm that we see there connecting Falcon 9 to the tower. And it's hard to believe that we're now under 15 minutes before launching the first all-civilian mission to orbit. Again, these are 4 non-professional astronauts. They're people just like us, and they're going to be going to space for 3 days. They're going to be orbiting Earth at 17,500 miles per hour. So they're basically going so fast that they won't fall back to Earth until we tell Dragon to do so. And they're going to be going up to a height of 575 kilometers.
Yep, and at those speeds and at those altitudes, they're going to be doing tons of science, which is super cool. And all of that data is going to be available for folks to continue to push the boundaries of what human space exploration will be in their near future.
So that's a live view of Falcon 9 with Crew Dragon for the Inspiration 4 mission sitting on top. There we can see our 4 soon-to-be astronauts there, comfortable in their seats. Throughout the day, we have seen a lot of camaraderie, a lot of joking, and I imagine that things are starting to get a little more serious. They're really focusing in on the task at hand, which is going to space in just a little over 13 minutes.
Yeah, this is very exciting. If you've been following along, they do have a Netflix documentary following their journey all the way up until this point. And the crew has just been so incredible. It's been so amazing to watch them throughout this whole process, and very excited to see them strapped in their seats, ready to go.
We're just inside T-minus 13 minutes, counting down. Everything is still looking good for launch of Falcon 9 and Dragon at 8 hours, 2 minutes, 56 seconds Eastern Daylight Saving Time, coming up very shortly. Falcon 9 did begin propellant loading on time at T-minus 35 minutes. Loading of the RP-1 kerosene fuel onto the second stage is complete. That closed out right on time. Fuel loading is continuing on the larger first stage tank. It's about half full right now. That'll finish at T-minus 6 minutes. We ought to hear that call out on the webcast. We're continuing to load densified liquid oxygen onto the first stage and into the second stage tanks. Now the liquid oxygen load will wrap up at about T-minus 3 minutes on first stage, T-minus 2 minutes on the second stage. Now a reminder, now that we are into propellant loading, we cannot stop the countdown and try to launch later in the window. So if a problem arises that requires holding the countdown clock, those dreaded words, hold, 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 we don't want to hear, we would have to scrub for the night and try again. We have a launch opportunity tomorrow just a little bit later if conditions allow. Condition of the Falcon 9 being go, the range is go. Weather, we've had great cooperation out of the Florida weather, both ground level, upper altitude, and around the world at the contingency landing sites. On the Dragon spacecraft, Dragon mission director and that team has reported no issues. They've done their communications checkouts. The crew access arm that you can see is retracted away from the Dragon spacecraft. We armed the launch escape system on time. And on the right-hand side of the monitor, you can see the 4-person crew strapped in, and they are ready to go. Coming up in about a minute, we're going to get final instructions to the crew at T-minus 10 minutes. They're going to configure their crew displays for launch, and that's a setup that'll give the crew insight into how the launch is proceeding, and it'll provide updates on vehicle health. Then we'll get a little closer at T-minus 5 minutes. We'll be into terminal count for the Dragon spacecraft. Dragon will go to internal power. We'll hear continued callouts in the countdown net as we get close to 0 and a liftoff. Now, next major event coming up right now, T-minus 10 minutes, as I said. Dragon will get its final instructions. We will also do a final series of checks of Falcon 9 telemetry against a preset limits. Make sure that all systems are go, and then we'll be moving from there into the closeouts on propellant, chilling into the engines to get ready for engine ignition down at about T-minus 2 seconds. Let's listen in on the countdown net for a minute.
Dragon SpaceX, confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX Dragon, our displays are configured for launch.
Copy that, Dragon. And it has been an absolute honor to prepare you for this historic flight. Today, you are truly inspiring the world. We wish you a great mission, good luck, Godspeed, and enjoy the ride.
So, Kate, it looks like we passed through another event, the T-minus 10 minute call up to the crew to reconfigure. That final message from the ground team as they get ready to have Inspiration 4 team inspire the world. On the Falcon 9 side, we're doing the last T-minus 10 minute checks. Next major event coming up, I think you've got that event.
Yeah, that was, I just want to note, that was SpaceX Core, which stands for the Crew Operations and Resource Engineer. That was the voice of Sarah Gillis, and she is basically the primary resource to the crew. We can see some excitement there on the right-hand side of your screen as the crew, I think they're really starting to realize that they're going to space in under 10 minutes. Now, the next major event that we have coming up will occur at T-minus 7 minutes. You'll hear the call out for engine chill. Engine chill is simply, as the name says, we chill down some of the hardware in the engine, we're actually going to flow a little bit of the super chilled, densified liquid oxygen through the turbo pumps and allow that hardware to basically come down, the temperature come down. This allows us to avoid any thermal shock to the hardware when the full flow of super chilled liquid oxygen occurs at startup. So there on your screen, Dragon Resilience with the Inspiration 4 crew strapped in their seats there at the top of the rocket. Once again, if you're just joining us, this is the first all-civilian mission to orbit, and they are going to space in 7.5 minutes. They will be ascending to an altitude of 575 kilometers above Earth and orbiting Earth at that altitude for 3 days. There's that crew there on your screen. On the far left seat is Chris Zembrowski. Next to him, Dr. Cyan Proctor, the pilot. Next to her to the right, Commander Jared Isaacman. And to the right of Jared, Haley Arsenault, the medical officer.
Stage 1 engine chill has started.
All right, there's that call that Stage 1 engine chill has started.
We don't really have a good view, but right now at the base of the Falcon 9, the 9 Merlin engines are beginning to vent.
Hi everybody, I talk for a second. I will be coming back in a sec. I know this is, we're entering the action zone. I don't want to miss any of it. I will be coming back in seconds probably. I gotta get back to my game though.
You're on top of the fixed service structure looking down at Dragon. The transporter erector or strongback is currently still clamped onto the second stage right next to the vehicle. You'll see that retract start in about 4.5 minutes before launch when the arms open up and then the strongback will be flying away a couple of degrees. What we're getting ready for right now is that call out. We're right on time. The fuel load, the RP1 kerosene, refined petroleum 1, rocket propellant 1 grade, is loaded onto the first stage. So that leaves us with just liquid oxygen loading continuing on both first and second stage. And you can see that moist Florida air slowly breezing by the 2 chilled down liquid oxygen tanks. And you can see the mist coming off with the moisture, the humidity, and the air condenses and gives you those clouds.
Yeah, that super chilled liquid oxygen coming into contact with the ambient Florida air, so creates these puffs of white clouds. As John said, completely normal. In fact, we will be seeing more of those once LOX load completes and those lines are closed off to the vehicle. Now, coming up in just about 10 seconds, we should be hearing the call that Dragon has been transitioned to its terminal count configuration.
Dragon has transitioned to configure for terminal count.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressurizing for strongback retract.
Everything continuing to go on schedule. We're beginning to pressurize the tanks. That'll help stiffen the second stage up as the 2 hydraulic clamp arms will open up coming up here very shortly.
Strongback is lowering.
As you can see on the timeline there, at the bottom of your screen, the strongback retraction is the next major event. In fact, the last physical event or modification to the pad prior to liftoff. Falcon 9 is nearly fully loaded with almost 1 million pounds of liquid kerosene and liquid oxygen. That liquid oxygen is what we see venting there, those white clouds. All right, there on your screen you can see that the strongback is beginning to retract.
And Kate, that strong back will move back just a couple of degrees you see here. Then at
Alright, I'm back. Whew. That was a fun game. Alright, long as close. Alright, I got here at T-minus 3 minutes and 8 seconds. I am a successful person. Let me get my stuff. Bam, bam, I'm back. Heal.
2.5 minutes now?
Wait, well, 2 minutes, 45 seconds out. Hi, Dad.
Hey, how you doing? First true civilian.
As you just heard, the crowd is super excited
Yep.
here at SpaceX headquarters in Hollywood,
Just like taking
California,
UAVs off.
as we
Yeah.
are now under 2.5 minutes until the launch of the Inspiration 4 crew.
Don't get in close.
That crew there can be seen on the right-hand side of your
Very,
screen.
very close.
Buckled in, ready to go.
Fix my mic. There we go. I can go ahead and
T-2.
order that. That is gone. T-minus 1 minute, 52 seconds.
Stage 2 locks load complete.
Wow, they cut that close. Stage 2 locks load complete. Oh, like 1 minute.
I will say, those suits look awesome.
They do.
With all of its propellants.
Shortly, expect loud venting.
Announcement to let the crew know
The high
that
boots.
as we vent off various lines on the launch pad, we'll hear some loud noises.
T-minus 1 minute, 24 seconds.
We're also right now draining the liquid oxygen out of the transporter erector, draining the lines, getting ready for launch.
T-minus 1 minute,
Startup
10
call,
seconds.
T-minus 1 minute.
People are excited. T-minus 1 minute.
I would be too.
Holy chicken. Falcon 9 is now in control of the spacecraft.
That looks awesome.
It does. All the cheers. T-minus 40 seconds. Inspiration for us, go for launch. T-minus 30 seconds. Still cheering. T-minus 20 seconds.
T-minus 15 seconds.
15, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1. Engine ignition. Lift off. Inspiration 4.
Oh, wait.
On this mission, everything but the second stage is flight proven.
Oh, yeah.
And the trunk, I suppose, but... Perfect cloud, like no clouds. If you want to move forward, if you go outside, you might be able to see it. Because it's going up the north, it's going up the east coast. Okay.
They're going for like a polar orbit or something?
Kind of.
Like a high inclination? Okay.
Approaching max Q. View from the side of the rocket. Hit max Q. Most dangerous point for the vehicle. Everything is A-OK. Very excited. Look at Haley. Plumes begin to expand. And there are the cheers. And there are the cheers. People begin to cheer. Those plumes. Sadly, this wasn't a morning lunch. If this was a morning lunch, you'd likely get a jellyfish. Yep.
Come up on Miko.
Yep, coming up on Miko, then stage separation almost immediately after that. The little orange thing is the rocket. Miko. Stage separation confirmed. Alright, moment igniting. Moment ignition. Screen station ignited. And now the booster is heading towards, just read the instructions, just off the coast of Florida. See the LCS posts.
What's that?
The little puffs?
No.
What, the flashes?
No.
What?
There's some kind of particulate. It's not there anymore. There's some. See it?
Wait, there's ice on the booster.
Booster ice?
Yeah.
Nice.
Because it gets so cold, there's ice on the booster. That's what that is. Yeah, that's the ice.
Floating.
Yep. Yeah, don't worry guys, that little particulates are just ice coming off the booster as it starts to warm up.
I'm pretty sure during first day descent I saw Dr. Science Proctor. I'm pretty sure I saw Dr. Science Proctor give us 2 thumbs up. I really enjoyed this ride because we've been waiting for her entire life.
Yeah.
Looks like they're fine.
Yeah.
Just before that news switched, we saw some teammate fist bumps going on there inside of the cabin.
Looks like the Inspiration 4 team is very, Inspiration 4 crew is very excited for this. And I mean, they should be, you know. A couple of minutes till the re-entry one. To the re-entry born. They always call it the entry born, but it's the re-entry born because it's coming back to Earth. I don't know why they call it the entry born, because it's actually the re-entry born, but they call it the entry born for some reason. You never know. All the trajectories on. Go Jared, go Cyan, go Chris, and go Haley. Enjoy your 3 days in space. Excited for the pictures. Good. .1 minute before the entry one. So if you watch the V1059 final flight and it's failure. If you're like me and you watched it when it was happening, you will look for very specific things on the entry one, because like it started to go on the entry one, so it could kind of scare you about that. Same thing with the 1 8 toast launch. Every single time a second stage ignites, I'm like, please ignite right, please ignite right. Oh thank God. Less than 30 seconds till the entry one, and then actually before the landing will be Seco 1. Dr. Proctor, man. Keep in mind, Dr. Proctor was actually in an astronaut class. Was really close to becoming an astronaut, and then on the yes or no go call, which pretty much like, you know, it's pretty much a yes or no. She got no. She didn't get it, which sucks. She has no clue why. It could have been for anything. Maybe there was somebody that was just better than her. You never know. Entry one. Woo! Entry one. Entry one looks nominal. Nothing looks normal. All looks normal with the entry one. Approaching the landing. Seco 1 and the landing. By the way, Seco is second engine cutoff, or it's stage actually. No, Seco actually means stage engine cutoff, actually. But even though you can't see stage 1, if you look at the stage 1 telemetry in the bottom left corner, you can tell it's all going wheel. T-minus 15 seconds till Seco 1. So I feel like they call it second engine cutoff. Seco 1. Stage 1 is approaching its landing. Come on, we all want to see it land. We all want to see it land. Under 1 kilometer. It is now hundreds of meters above the deck of the drone ship. No video footage. Oh no! Oh, they got some. They got some. There it is. Landing links are deployed. Okay, did it land? Oh, look, this little thing. Oh, stage 1 landing confirmed. Stage 1 landed. Woo! They're in low gravity now, cause little, is that a dog floating around? Nice. So I'm gonna shut the stream down here in a couple minutes when the Dragon deploys. Once the Dragon deploys, I'm gonna shut it all down, and I will look at the next launches in the near future and see which one I want to stream next. Because I'm not gonna stream every single launch. I don't have time for that. I am high school, guys. So I don't have time to stream every single thing, and I can never stream. Awesome. Yeah, like I'm high school, guys. I don't have infinite time. Now, if we're walking is set to launch after 3 and before 10, I can definitely stream it. But like that is my if it's not a school day, that's my streaming window. There's John. Yeah, so the Dragon Capsule will be in orbit for 3 days. 30 seconds. Approaching Dragon Cupola. There was absolutely nothing in the trunk. It's kind of amazing. Like, we're used to seeing something in the trunk. Because when the guys go to the ISS, there's almost always something in the trunk.
They land all right? Awesome. Sweet.
Yeah. Dragon Cupola in just a couple of seconds. And Dragon's deployed. It's weird to not see anything in the trunk, though. Because, normally when they go to the ISS, there's something in the trunk. If it's a CRS missions, there's always something in the trunk of some kind. And even the crew missions always have food or equipment or something in the trunk. Go Inspiration 4. Go Inspiration 4. Well, I'm gonna shut the stream down now. Now that kind of all the big milestones for quite a while have ended. It's possible that depending on the time of it, when they're coming back in, which will be Saturday or Sunday, I might stream that too. We'll see. Depends on time and all the stuff. I might stream it. I don't know when the April is, I don't know. Well, so I'm gonna start the stream down. I hope you guys enjoyed this first ever launch stream of mine. Big things. Also for the live stream on this channel. But yeah, I'm going to all of my launch streams on this channel, the Space of a Teenage Astronaut channel. The next thing to come on this channel that you can see is the next space stuff by Teenage Astronaut, which will be on Saturday, the 17th. Yeah, 17th of September. That'll be about this mission, obviously. It'll have stuff on, what else? So I have this mission, Firefly Alpha mission, and my new segment, the Small Sat Saturday segment, which will be about a small sat launcher, and this one will be about relativity space. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this launch, and I will see you all next time. Ending communications.